Hey guys, if you want to choose the best battle system for your turn-based RPG, watch this whole video. I go over a number of factors for you to consider to make the best choice for your game. So a lot of time when a developer talks to me about their battle system, they go into great detail as to what the player can actually do when it's their turn. Different action sequences, points, action economy, hours, cooldowns, etc. It's all really good and everything, but very rarely does a developer actually talk about how those turns are determined. They just say, oh, it's an ATB like in Final Fantasy VI, or oh, it's like Octopath Traveler, that kind of thing. Now, I understand that everyone has their favorite battle systems, but that's not the right way for a developer to determine what's best for their game. You need to divorce yourself from what you like to play and instead focus on what's best for your game and your players. Before we go any further, we have to define a combat round, because that's sort of a holdover from old tabletop RPGs. So a combat round is a contained segment of time within a battle where all players and all non-players, both friendly and hostile, take their turn. It's a generalized concept to help dictate that flow of the battle. All battles have to have flow. There has to be a point in which people take their turns. There's a definitive beginning and a definitive end. That way the player will have some sort of metric to determine what they can and cannot do to strategize and get their way through your battle. So why is that important? Well, systems that use combat rounds have a completely different logic from those that do not. Both handle the flow of battle very differently. The considerations for a combat round-based, turn-based battle system, that's a mouthful, is completely different than one without combat rounds. So keep that in mind as we move forward. So with that understood, let's go over the 5 factors you need to consider when deciding what type of battle system to use. First off, are there combat rounds at all? That's very important. You need to know out of the starting gate, are you going to be restricting your players to going in a container of combat rounds, or is there some other way that the battle flow is going to go? In other words, could it be character A, monster A, character B, character A, monster B, character B, that kind of thing. It all comes down to the fundamental question of, do you want everyone in the battle to go before anyone can go again? Think about it logically. For your game, does the player benefit better being able to strategize around one character's action per round, or would they benefit better from the dynamic fluidity where who goes next in your battle changes constantly? Second, when do the characters go? Is it something predetermined, baked into the engine like an initiative score? Is it something that's stat-based, like agility or luck, or agility plus luck? Or is it something that is completely RNG, like an initiative roll? Or is it a combination thereof? When do those characters take their turn? It all comes down to a very basic philosophical question. According to the way your game, your story, your theme, what makes the most sense? Would it all be completely random and left up to the threads of fate? Would it be something statistically that comes from within the character themselves? What is it that from your game on a thematic level should determine when a character takes their turn in combat? Third, how does the player know when they're going to go? Obviously, they don't have to. You could just have their turn come up, their command box open, and they take their turn. There could be some sort of on-screen indicator like a timer or a meter, or they could see their character portrait on some sort of battle timeline, something like that. Or there could be a full turn order indicator that shows everyone's turn, either in a combat round or for the foreseeable future during the battle flow. And if there are combat rounds, it could show future ones as well, so that the player can plan several steps ahead. When designing your engine, ask yourself, is it best that the player knows when they're going to go? And if so, how much foresight do they get into the next couple of turns? If it's not important for them to know that, why show it? If it is important for them to know it, then yes, give some sort of indication. Fourth, does the game delay the character's turns at all? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe if a character always goes third in a round, they're always going to go third in a round. Maybe if a monster always goes after a certain character based on their agility, they always go. But you can also delay turns. Let's say there's statuses like slow or a delay attack. that could delay the turns through some sort of in-game state. Another way would be something like a cooldown or a charge up. There are a lot of RPGs, for example, where the ATB meter fills up, the character chooses a spell, and the meter quickly recedes, and then the character fires off their spell. Does the game give the player or the enemies any way of delaying their turn or their opponent's turn? And is there a benefit to having this turn delay as a part of your battle system? If there's not, there's no reason to include that kind of a mechanic. And lastly, can the player skip or otherwise manipulate that turn order when one of their characters or an enemy goes? For example, a player could manually skip their turn or delay it, like through some sort of option where they say, I want character A to go after character B this turn. Maybe they can stock the action for this turn and be able to use it with the next turn, creating some sort of double turn. Maybe they can do it 3 times or more. Or a player's action may influence when their character goes again or when their character's turn even occurs. We talked about that earlier. For example, your ATB meter fills up, you choose a spell, that meter shrinks, the spell fires off. Or like in a CTB, where that character's turn comes up, they choose an attack, and their turn comes up later in the turn order. So ask yourself this. Why would the player have to be that specific that they would have to somehow manipulate when their next turn occurs? If it's your vision that the player has to strategize with that much minutia, then you want to consider a battle system where they can manipulate the turn order directly. At the end of the day, you have to choose the battle system that works best for your game, one that allows the player to play your RPG the way you want them to. Turn-based battle systems can be very strong. They can allow the player to strategize moment to moment, round to round, in order to feel like they've really conquered your game. But here's the important thing. Don't pick your battle system and then attempt to mold it to your game. Instead, think of what you want the player to be able to do, what you want them restricted from doing, and then mold your battle system to that. The more you choose and modify your battle system based off of what's best for your game and your players, as opposed to trying to fit it like a square peg into a round hole, the more you as a developer, as well as the player, will come out of every battle feeling very, very fulfilled. We hope you enjoyed this video. We put out content to help developers bring their games to the next level. We also stream live plays of video games, both indie and AAA in development, analyzing them with our chat and dissecting their pros and cons. We hope you'll join us. Anyway, if you like what you saw, lay the smack down that like button below, subscribe to our channel, ring that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. This is Steel. Peace out.